Before the long-running TV series, there was Stargate the movie. Aliens posing as gods, ancient pyramids, and interstellar travel through giant stone rings. But even if you've seen it a dozen times, there are some weird quirks hiding in the production, story, and props that most fans miss. From scenes cut at the last minute to props painted wrong, Stargate, 1994, has surprises behind the scenes. Ready to step through the gate? Here are 15 weird facts about the original Stargate movie you probably didn't know. Number 1. The Stargate was originally painted black. At first, the massive Stargate prop was painted black. The problem? It looked too much like a giant tire. Roland Emmerich and the crew quickly realized it distracted more than it impressed. Instead of looking ancient or powerful, it just sat there, flat, heavy, and oddly cartoonish under the lights. So, at the very last minute, they made a major call. Repaint the entire gate silver. That change wasn't just cosmetic. Lighting and reflections behave completely differently on silver than black. Suddenly, the setups with floodlights, torches, and even moonlight had more depth and texture. The gate began to glow. When you see it shimmer in the desert outside the pyramid or catch light off the carved symbols during activation scenes, that's all thanks to that last-minute color switch. If any scenes had been filmed with the black version in close-ups, the lighting would have looked flat and lifeless. Those moments were likely scrapped or never filmed at all. It's one of those production decisions that seems minor, but ends up making a huge difference. And unless you've heard the story, you'd never know.
Neat little guys and funny little line coming out of the top. Anyway.
Number 2. They had to rebuild the pyramid model fast. The filmmakers used a detailed miniature of the pyramid for many of the wide shots on Abydos, including the dramatic arrival of Ra's ship and several desert skyline scenes. Building that model was no small task. It had to look ancient, alien, and massive, even though it was only a few feet tall in real life. But late in production, things changed. Director Roland Emmerich and the visual effects team were so impressed by how good the miniatures looked on film that they requested a staggering 66 new VFX shots, most of them added in the final week. That meant the team had to rush to rework scenes involving the pyramid, the skies above it, ship movements, and explosions. They blended the miniature with matte paintings, sky plates, and digital elements using a system called Domino, a compositing tool that helped them speed up the process without losing quality. All of that last-minute effort added real scope to the film. It's part of why Stargate feels bigger than it is. You'd never know how tight the deadline was. The ambition hides in plain sight. Number 3. Daniel Jackson originally laughed at the script. James Spader, who plays the brilliant but awkward Dr. Daniel Jackson, didn't exactly jump at the role. In fact, when he first read the original Stargate script, he thought it was, in his own words, awful. The early drafts by Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich didn't impress him, and he wasn't sold on the story's tone. Part ancient mythology, part science fiction adventure, part philosophical space opera. But after seeing the revised script and hearing Emmerich's vision for the film, Spader came around. He saw the potential in the character and the strange balance the movie was trying to strike. That balance, between archaeological mystery, emotional drama, and pulpy science fiction action, is part of what gives Stargate its unique feel. Spader's early reluctance also had a subtle impact on the final film. Some of Jackson's dialogue was tweaked during production to better match Spader's voice, adding a layer of sarcasm, emotion, or surprise instead of pure exposition. The result? A character who doesn't just explain the weirdness, he reacts to it, and that makes him feel real.
It's got a harness! It's domesticated!
Number 4. The budget versus box office numbers were huge. Stargate had a production budget of about $55 million, which was a serious investment for a science fiction film in 1994, especially one not based on a comic book, sequel, or established property. But that gamble paid off. The film ended up grossing around $196.6 million worldwide, making it one of the most successful October releases of its time. For a movie blending ancient mythology, alien technology, and big practical effects, those numbers were a huge win. Studios took notice. It proved there was an audience for original science fiction stories that dared to mix ancient legends with speculative science and big-screen spectacle. But that success didn't come easy. The effects were ambitious. Practical wormhole blasts, detailed miniatures, morphing alien faces, full-scale desert sets, and the massive Stargate prop, all designed to feel both ancient and futuristic. That financial success gave the green light for what came next. Stargate SG-1, Atlantis, universe, novels, comics, and merchandise. Without that box office performance, the Stargate franchise might have ended right there, as a one-off movie lost in the sands of Abydos. Number 5. The director's cut adds a scene before the 1928 excavation. The theatrical release of Stargate jumps straight into the 1928 Giza excavation, but the director's cut includes a key scene that comes before that moment, and it quietly reshapes how we see the villain. In this added sequence, we see a young human boy in a primitive village, the person who will eventually become the host for Ra. The scene, filmed in Yuma, Arizona, with a mix of practical sets and model work, shows an alien ship descending and abducting the boy. No dialogue, no exposition, just visual storytelling. That brief moment adds depth to the film's mythology. It reframes Ra, not just as an evil overlord, but as a parasitic being who stole a human life and used it to pose as a god. There's something tragic about it, and it hints at a larger cycle of control and possession in the universe. The director's cut also restores a bit of the film's original tone, one focused more on mystery, anthropology, and ancient myth than pure action. It's a quieter version of Stargate, but one that leaves a lasting impression for lore fans. Number 6. The motion control morphs took nearly 9 months. One of the strangest and most memorable effects in Stargate are the morphs. Those moments when faces or shapes shift in a fluid, alien way. They're unsettling, almost hypnotic, and they didn't come easy. In fact, the morph sequences took nearly 9 months of work to pull off. The effects team couldn't rely on off-the-shelf tools. Instead, they had to create custom software that blended physics-based distortions with frame-by-frame artistry. Emmerich didn't want the transformations to look slick or beautiful, the way morphs often did in other films of the era. He wanted them to look mechanical, jarring, and unnatural, as if alien technology was forcing something into a new form. That's why the movements feel both smooth and awkward at the same time. They bend the human face in ways that feel just wrong enough to be creepy. Even today, the morphs catch you off guard because they don't behave like standard CGI transitions. They may not be flawless by modern standards, but the intentional weirdness is exactly what makes them stand out, and what gives Stargate its eerie, alien atmosphere. Number 7. They filmed the 1928 excavation in just 3 days. The opening sequence, set in 1928 Giza, is one of the most atmospheric moments in Stargate. It shows Catherine Langford as a young girl, watching her father's team uncover the buried Stargate under massive stone slabs. The whole thing feels mysterious, timeless, and epic. But behind the scenes, it came together in just 3 days of shooting. Instead of Egypt, the filmmakers used desert locations in Arizona, constructing only partial sets for the dig site. To make the scene feel larger, they filled the background with stick figures draped in cloth to simulate distant workers, a simple trick that worked beautifully on camera. Timing was everything. The crew deliberately scheduled key shots for late afternoon, using the golden glow of the sun to bathe the ruins in warm light. That natural effect made the scene feel like a living painting. It's a short sequence, but it establishes the film's tone right away. Ancient mystery, awe, and power waiting to be unlocked.
What kind of a job?
Translation. Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Interested?
Number 8. No dial home device in the movie. If you're a fan of Stargate SG-1, you probably picture the Stargate sitting next to its familiar dial home device, that pedestal that allows travelers to punch in coordinates and connect to other worlds. But in the original 1994 film, the Earth Stargate doesn't have a DHD at all. Instead, the military team relies on a computer system to rotate the inner ring and lock the chevrons into place. Daniel Jackson guides them by interpreting the symbols, but the mechanics of how the computer and the gate communicate are never really explained. On screen, it looks partly manual, partly automated, and mostly mysterious. The novelization expands on this slightly, suggesting that the inner ring could be rotated by hand, with external sensors assisting in locking symbols. But in the movie, it remains vague. This omission creates both tension and inconsistency. It makes the gate feel unpredictable, but it also clashes with the lore established later in the TV series. Was it a deliberate choice to keep things enigmatic, or just something the filmmakers hadn't worked out yet? Fans still debate it. Number 9. Lawsuit over story similarities. After Stargate was released in 1994, it didn't just grab attention from audiences. It also attracted a lawsuit. An Oklahoma high school teacher named Omar Zudi claimed the movie's premise was strikingly similar to a script he had written a decade earlier, in 1984, called Egyptscape. Zudi's script also explored the idea of ancient Egypt being connected to alien visitors and advanced technology, which sounded a lot like what audiences saw on screen in Stargate. Believing his work had been copied, he took legal action against the filmmakers. The case never went through a full public trial. Instead, it was eventually settled out of court, with no official details released. That left fans and industry watchers wondering, was it just a coincidence? Or did elements of Egyptscape really inspire the final film? Hollywood has a long history of overlapping ideas, especially in science fiction where ancient aliens has always been a popular theme. Still, the lawsuit added a strange shadow to Stargate's success. Number 10. Kurt Russell's hair was brightened after filming his first scene. When Kurt Russell first shot scenes as Colonel Jack O'Neill, his hair was darker and longer. After those initial scenes, there was a request to brighten his hair color a bit. Some shots of him early in the film show that more natural tone. Then, later on, it looks more uniform and brighter in color. Minor change, right? But these things matter for continuity, lighting, how he looks in desert versus inside facility shots. It helps with audience perception, rugged soldier versus high-tech operative. Actors often don't notice until they see dailies, and Russell was among them. Changes like these can help an actor read better under bright sun, or under set lights. Faces catch highlights. Eyes reflect light differently. It's just a small, almost invisible tweak. But once you know, you see it in the lighting, the framing, and the contrast. Adds polish underneath the spectacle.
How you doing?
Number 11. Scenes filmed in Long Beach Dome. Some of the largest interior sets in Stargate were built inside a very unusual location, the Spruce Goose Dome in Long Beach, California. Originally designed to house Howard Hughes's enormous wooden flying aircraft, the H-4 Hercules, the hangar offered over 135,000 square feet of space, far larger than a standard Hollywood soundstage. The filmmakers needed that kind of room. The Earth-based Stargate facility had to feel vast, industrial, and secretive, with the gate itself dominating the space. Standard stages simply couldn't accommodate the size of the Stargate prop, and all the military scaffolding, catwalks, and lighting rigs that surrounded it. Renting the Long Beach Dome solved the problem. Shooting there wasn't without challenges. The cavernous space created echo problems for dialogue, and filling such a huge area with consistent lighting required careful planning. But those hurdles were worth it. The scale of the dome gave the set a sense of weight and authenticity. When you see the Stargate standing in that massive facility, it feels believable that the military would hide such a powerful artifact there. And that's thanks to the dome. Number 12. The wormhole effect was filmed using a water tank and air cannon. One of Stargate's signature visuals is the kawoosh, the vortex of water/energy that spills out of the gate before stabilizing. Today, it would probably be created with CGI, but in 1994, the filmmakers relied on practical effects to give it real physical weight. The effect was achieved using a large water tank paired with a custom-built air cannon. Compressed air was blasted into the water from below, creating a sudden bulge and ripple on the surface. Filmed in slow motion and then enhanced with lighting effects and digital overlays, it became the shimmering, liquid-like eruption audiences remember. Getting it right wasn't easy. Early tests used too much pressure, causing the water to explode out of the tank and drench the camera crew. Eventually, they fine-tuned the cannon to around 100 psi, just enough to create that mesmerizing ripple without flooding the set. Because the effect was grounded in real-world physics, it still looks strangely convincing today. That first unstable burst feels messy, dangerous, and unpredictable. Exactly what you'd expect from a portal ripping open through space. Number 13. The original lecture was much longer. Early versions of the script had Daniel Jackson delivering a longer lecture on his theories around the pyramids and their building. including ideas that aliens might have influenced them. That lecture was trimmed significantly for pacing and runtime. Originally, the dialogue delved deeper into Daniel's academic skepticism, details of ancient Egypt, and more backstory about why he believed the pyramids weren't built by Khufu alone. But those parts were considered too slow, too dense for mainstream audiences. They risked boring people before reaching the action. By cutting those bits, the film becomes tighter, more immediate, but it also loses a bit of that intellectual framing. So Daniel Jackson's transformation from skeptic to believer feels quicker, more abrupt. For fans of the lore, those removed scenes add weight. They'd show just how conflicted Jackson was, not just adventurous. Number 14. The symbol count changed between movie and series. In the film Stargate, the gate has a set of 39 symbols on its inner ring. But when the TV series Stargate SG-1 came along, the mythology changed. They switched to 38 symbols plus a special point of origin symbol, unique to each Stargate. That means the way addresses, symbol combinations to dial other worlds, were used changed slightly. The film used constellations and symbols a bit differently, and the series updated it to allow for consistent dialing across many Stargates, not just the Earth to Abydos route. It was part of making the lore more flexible for future stories. If you look at the staircase of symbols around the gate in the movie, you'll see differences compared to the sets in the show. Some symbols changed shape or artwork. It's staggeringly subtle unless you're paying attention. But fans who are into Stargate mythology love spotting the matches and mismatches. Number 15. The film set the record for October opening. When Stargate came out in October 1994, it had one of the biggest box office openings for a movie released in that month at the time. October is typically not considered prime blockbuster season. Hubby and holiday months usually are. So getting a strong opening meant strong marketing, good public interest, and word of mouth. Stargate brought myth, action, and the exotic, and it hooked audiences. That opening success helped the film stay in theaters long enough to earn almost $200 million against its $55 million budget. It proved that science fiction adventure with a unique twist, pyramids plus ancient gods plus wormholes, could draw crowds even outside traditional blockbuster months. It also paved the way for MGM and others to cash in on the franchise potential. The later TV shows, spin-offs, and expanded universe stuff all leaned on that early proof that people cared. There you go. 15 weird facts from the making, myth, and legacy of Stargate. From last-minute prop changes and lawsuits to visual effects that took near a year, this movie's behind-the-scenes stories are almost as epic as what you see on screen. If you enjoyed slipping through the portal into this trivia, smash that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and drop a comment. Which number surprised you the most? Or do you have another Stargate oddity we missed? Until next time, keep your constellations aligned.